Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sydney from TechServe Alliance. Welcome to today's webinar, How the Pandemic Changed Technology Adoption Rates for IT Staffing Firms. Today's webinar is sponsored by Ceipal. There will be a question and answer session after the presentation, so please feel free to write in any questions you want answered in the Q&A box, which can be found at the bottom of the screen. We are also recording today's presentation, which will be available to TechServe members on the TechServe Alliance website and will be sent out in follow-up emails to all attendees. First, I'd like to introduce you to Peter Velikin, Chief Marketing Officer at Ceipal.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for attending here. It's a great pleasure for me to be here about a topic that's very, very dear to me, how technology choices influenced and determined the staffing firm's performance and success during the pandemic. At the beginning of last year, jointly with TechServe Alliance, we at Ceipal launched the IT and Engineering Staffing Dashboard. It's a very, very powerful and interesting tool that allows you to benchmark yourself, your firm, against the industry. You can anonymously go in and actually compare how you're performing based on various key performance indicators that you can go. In the process, we tracked metrics from the beginning of last year on a monthly basis, on an ongoing basis through this year. And there are many metrics that we tracked. They include consultants on billing, new job orders, job starts, job stops, and so on. And we also included a very interesting section that measured the importance in adoption of 8 key technologies for staffing firms. Well, little did we know when we launched this index that there's going to be a global pandemic that'll literally shake our industry to its core. And when we launched it, the metrics actually were before the pandemic, and we had a really solid baseline of how the industry used to be before the pandemic hit. And then we were able to watch and write down the whole downturn and everything that happened, as well as the early recovery, and learn how it affected various firms, and later be able to try to piece out and glean what drove some of the firms to do better than others. What you can see here on the index on the right-hand side is you can see one of the metrics, the consultants on billing, how you can see the dip in April, how they recovered. What's interesting about this index is that, in my opinion, it's one of the most accurate and timely indexes that represents the status of the industry. Because, for example, the employment data, it's a lagging indicator. For firms, if they need to reduce and downsize, it takes a few months with layoffs and everything. There's a smoothing effect. By the same token, if they want to try to increase their workforce, takes a while to hire and get up to speed. It's much, much faster and much more direct with staffing firms and contingent staffing. So for contingent staffing, when firms need to downsize, they downsize. When they need to hire, happens like that, happens quickly. So as a result, our index, I firmly believe, is one of the most accurate to reflect the upticks and downticks. Like whenever a change happens, I think our index will be the first to spot it. So it's a cool index. And especially for me, the most interesting part, of course, was the technology and how this technology played a role with to the performance and the financial metrics. But last on the index, if you haven't done it on this dashboard, I very strongly encourage you to go check it out. It's on the TechServe Alliance's site, and actually we have it also on the Ceipal site. I highly encourage, just go check out how you're performing. It's anonymous for you, for your data. But you can see various metrics, where you're doing well, where you need to improve, and how much. So particularly for this research that I did, I used data from anonymous data to me from over 130 US staffing firms that included data from over 19,000 consultants. So I think we have a pretty good chunk of data. In terms of the firms who participated, it was a good mix of company size. So we had 38% of them were small. So we defined it from between 0 to 50 consultants on billing continuously. 22% were medium. We defined it as 51 to 100 consultants on billing continuously. 70% were large, 100 to 200, and 23% were what we called enterprise with more than 200 consultants on billing continuously. We tracked their key performance indicators on a monthly basis. And then as part of the index, as I mentioned, there was a technology section where firms rated the importance of 8 key technologies for their business and their basically how they fared over there. So let's look a little bit at the performance of the firm. So key metrics that we looked at was billing, new job orders, and placements. If you look at the new job orders, that's the orange line, they took a big dip during the pandemic in April and May. And they never quite recovered through the time of the period that I used for the survey was January through September of last year. Interestingly enough, the consultants on billing, they stayed relatively stable. But what really kind of intrigued me, to be honest, and was interesting is when we looked at placements, there was a very intriguing thing that happened that for high performing firms, placements initially, obviously they dipped as well, just like with the industry, but the high performing firms, when the recovery happened, they recovered at a much faster rate, their placements, than what happened to the new job orders that were coming in. So we are seeing that some firms really outperformed the industry. Now, mathematically, that means that some firms struggled a lot and probably, could have been terminal. But that thing about the placements is very intriguing to me. So, so what I wanted to do is to dig in a little bit and see why were some firms more successful during the pandemic, during the initial downturn, and also during the recovery. What exactly drove that? So naturally, being in a technology firm, I wanted to dig in and see how about their technology? Like, did it in any way influence the performance? What was the effect of it? So I went in and I correlated the firm performance to its technology stance. So I wanted to compare the performance of firms who placed high importance on certain technology versus those who didn't, and see how did their actual financial and consultant performance compare in terms of consultants on billing. Particularly interesting for me was this anomaly of, as I showed before, of placements for the placements part for high performing firms. Why? And was there any correlation by their technology that they adopted to their ability to outpace the industry in terms of placements and the successful close rates? So, so I actually tracked that separately for each of the key technologies. And just so you understand that the way that we structured this thing is, I separated the respondents into 2 categories for each of these processes. The processes were business process improvement, chatbots, engagement automation, future importance, marketing automation, mobile staffing app, recruiting automation, and sales automation. So for each of these, what I did is I looked at the respondents and I looked at the responses. I'm sorry, it was an anonymous list that we had. So I knew that basically the firms were 1 through 130, and then I could see kind of how they responded and what their performance was going forward. And I said, okay, so I'll take the firms that didn't care about the technology. So let's take business process improvements. The ones that answered 0 to 5 in terms of the importance and how for their firm, I put them in one category. And the ones that scored 5 to 10, I put them in the category of care. And I looked at the overall performance of what they did. And similar went by for each of these. And then something very interesting happened. I mean, there were some technologies that didn't really have any meaningful effect. But there are several technologies that emerged of having an outsized effect on the performance of these firms during the first stage of the pandemic when everything went down. And then there was an additional set of technologies that mattered a lot during the early phase of recovery. There were some technologies that mattered on both phases, some technologies that mattered in the early and some technologies in the later phase. And how did I define last thing in terms of the setup? How did I define? So basically, we took the data from January, February before the pandemic, and we set it as the baseline. And then we looked at the months of April, May, which was when really, if you remember, this big dip where everything crashed, and see what happened. Did some firms do better and why? And then we took the August, September data when the early recovery happened and said, okay, so let's look at this period of the early recovery and see what happens over there. So it was really interesting findings. So let me dig in. So during the early phases of the pandemic, like the April, May months, so the firms that really invested in business process improvement, they did 20% better than the ones that didn't. I mean, it was a significant, it was really marked and significant. There was a clear improvement of the ones that cared over there. One specific clarification. So obviously I made an assumption in this survey. So we asked the questions of the importance of technology. The assumption that we made is that when a firm said that it was important a certain technology for their business, the assumption is that actually they cared and they invested and they paid attention to it, versus technologies that weren't important, they didn't pay attention. So the assumption was obviously that their answers were consistent with what the firm did. But so going with this assumption, the business process improvement helped firms perform better. Recruitment automation, the ones that actually invested and found it important for their firms, they performed 36% better than the ones that didn't. And the ones that invested in the mobile capability, specifically the mobile staffing app, it was a modest, but it was still a clear marked improvement, 14% better than the ones that didn't, which is interesting. And again, statistically, there is something to that. So let me look into that. Business process improvement. So we really try to understand what exactly is it, and how does this investment in business process improvement help these firms do better, 20% better. So what did they do? So the firms that invested there, they wanted to improve and automate their internal processes and resolve any bottlenecks that they have that impact their performance. I mean, they quickly realized there are fewer job orders. So in order to be successful, they really need to be hyper-focused on every order. They really were going for like 100% success rate, not like a 25% success rate that they may have been going up before the industry. So every job order, every requisition became hyper important, and they really needed to focus. So they examined their internal processes and were able to perform better on every order and not be impacted by the fewer job orders that they got. And so once this whole assessment was done, obviously identified different technologies and other areas that were important for the business. And the two other ones that determined success during the pandemic were functions of this assessment and the business process improvement: recruitment automation and the mobile staffing app. But let's stick to business process improvement. How you may be asking, okay, as a staffing firm, that sounds great. I need to improve my business process. How the heck do I get started? What do I do? Well, what do you really need to do in order to identify where you need to improve? You really need increased visibility into all of your business processes of your business. You have to be able to pinpoint the exact bottlenecks and have real-time data updates. Obviously, if you're, is it impacting? If you make a small tweak, is it getting improved? So the ability to have visibility into your business and the ability to have real-time data updates, I think it's critical. You also need to have dashboards that track the critical key performance indicator for every function. You don't know what you don't know initially, and in order for you to find something to optimize, you need to assess the business and figure it out. And you need to have automated and scheduled reports that are sent to the right stakeholders to track progress and also enforce behavior. If you want to change and make an improvement, I firmly believe that simply by measuring something, it gets better. I mean, every business that I have been, by simply focusing and identifying some metrics, and we just start measuring continuously, they get better. Because when something is measured, people focus, they pay attention, and things get better. So that is critical, these reports and these stakeholders. But you also want, obviously, you have a business to run. A lot is going on, especially when we think about around the pandemic. So you need a system that makes it easy and accessible and easy to actually build these things. Because again, I don't think many firms had the luxury of having a statistician or a mathematician or just read these big charts that usually you may get of tables and so on and read and try to correlate. So at Ceipal, one of the fundamental things that we go for and we believe is that we want to make it very easy and accessible for business owners, not mathematicians, not like they're techie statisticians, for business owners to be able to look into the data and get this data, be able to manipulate this data easily so they can make decisions. Because at the end of the day, the business people, the business owners, I firmly believe, and we firmly believe, that when we give them the tools and the visibility, they are the best. You are the best people to actually make those decisions in how to improve the business. You have the context, you have the experience. So a key to getting this business process optimization is to have a very robust business intelligence module that is easy to use and yet powerful to get you this real-time data and reports and everything to get it done. So that's clearly showed to be a fundamentally important technology. Another one, recruitment automation. I mean, an even bigger effect, 36% improvement. I mean, this is a significant improvement in getting your placement rates and importance. It's the importance of streamlining your internal processes through automating the various tasks. At the end of the day, you guys always compete. You compete always with your peers and with the other staffing firms. It's a very, very tough business. It's a very competitive business because the competition is not sitting still. So whatever has been working, others will copy, others will improve. You have to continuously keep improving. You have to continuously do better in order to outcompete your competitors. You're going after the same talent, essentially, and really your processes and your firm performance is what makes the difference. Well, automation really gives the leg up, and we can clearly see it mathematically when we look at the performance. The ones that actually did invest in recruitment automation, they did better. So it goes through the whole cycle. When you start from job order acquisition, being able to automate client outreach, having the integrations with VMSs and getting automatic job distribution to save the time, that's important. Getting advanced business intelligence about the client, about the job, about getting there, this is critical. This is a way to outcompete and to speed the time and get better quality. We move to the candidate sourcing. Being able to efficiently and quickly search your internal database, harvest resumes from the various job boards, be able to reach to the passive candidate sourcing pool. So candidates that maybe for jobs that are hard to fill, find the right talent wherever they are and be able to quickly reach them. And then we get to the candidate evaluation. Leverage artificial intelligence. I mean, that's one thing that it's very exciting for me how quickly and how ubiquitous artificial intelligence gets in our life. And it's everywhere. I mean, when you think of Google and automating the search algorithms and Facebook and everything else that's out there and Alexa and so on, that has come to our industry as well. The staffing industry has been transformed and is being transformed by artificial intelligence getting in. It probably took a bit longer, but it's here. So leveraging AI for matching and ranking does give a significant leg up to the firms that do it. Are also AI-powered people analytics. Again, it's people's business. So at the end of the day, the ability to make a judgment is hugely important. And if recruiters are really burdened with doing a lot of the data searching and mundane tasks, that hampers from their ability to really engage with a client or the candidate, and it hampers from their ability to really aid in the assessment. AI can help there. They can give you AI can give you a lot of information and analytics about people that helps you make a decision quickly. And then interview integrations and so on. There are many different steps that are hugely important. Automatic job distribution, automated candidates and outreach. So again, how does it work? What exactly can you do there? Well, so I want to start again with AI because it's so important. I mean, one of the biggest investments that every staffing firm makes is in their database. You pay lots of money every month for job boards and maintain a database, and you're trying to keep and maintain a big database. The unfortunate fact is, when I've spoken with many staffing firms and staffing owners, is that in the heat of the moment, many recruiters do not leverage this internal database. They immediately jump and go to the job boards and start looking there. And all your investment that you have made in building this database really isn't being leveraged. Whether they never look at it or they just, so the question is why they don't look at it. Well, one is, again, maybe simplicity, their ability to search and to quickly go and find what they need, or their confidence that they'll have it. For whatever reason, it doesn't happen. It's the biggest wasted opportunity. So what AI allows firms is that you start there, because at the click of a button, the artificial intelligence algorithm will look at your internal database and identify the best candidates instantly. So your recruiters start there before they go to the job boards. And it's very powerful, because you can get a lot of information. So for example, at Ceipal, what you can do is you'll get not only identify the candidates, and they get ranked and matched based on many criteria, not only about their skills, what's there, but also lots of things in terms of context, the recency of their job, what kind of other tools, these skills, are they in the appropriate tools, and so on. There's many things that go there. On top of that, you also can get an assessment of what we call reverse compatibility. So, okay, you may have found the perfect candidate, but is this job a fit for them? How likely is it that they will be interested in liking? So this instant assessment will totally empower your recruiters to have a starting point. They still may need to go and likely, sometimes will need to go to the job boards and so on, but you're leveraging your number one asset. So second thing to mention is the 24/7 resume harvesting. So you're paying a lot of money for the job boards. You definitely want to go and maximize your credits. You do not want to waste them and leave them unused. So what the automated resume harvesting does is that at the end of whatever period it is, whether it's daily or weekly, it looks at the unused job credits, and based on set parameters and criteria, it'll automatically download and maximize your credits so you don't lose them. So you continuously refresh and update your database, and when you have AI, the next time when they look, you're going to be able to leverage those things to start with. Now, this is all great, but again, as things get more and more specialized and competitive, there are jobs that you simply do not have in your database, or need to look really hard. So what passive candidate sourcing allows you to do is it allows you to go and look outside in the world and find the best talent, regardless of whether they have put their resume on the job board or applied in your career portal. You can find them and you can reach them quickly and access them, or at least compare what's out there based on to the talent that you have. One particular feature that for me it's fascinating and I really am interested in, you can actually see an image. If you look in the middle image, middle bottom image, it's the people analytics that gets done. So it's scary and impressive how much public data there is about all of us out there. Specifically when you're an engineer, for example, or a technical job. I mean, when you look at GitHub or any of the other portals, there's information about a lot of the consultants there. And we can access it given an unlimited time, but in the heat of the moment, it's just not practical for consultants to go and search everywhere and try to make the correlations. Well, that's not the case when you have really low cost computing cycles, virtually unlimited. So if you have artificial intelligence, your system can go out and get all this data from everywhere, Google, GitHub, all the different places. There's a bunch of databases that are open databases that include information. Get this all data, run a ton of correlations, and try to assess the fit and what type of a candidate there is. It's you're probably familiar with some of these psychology and the Myers-Briggs or other tests. So what this system does is it kind of similar thing. It goes and says, what's the environment that this person is successful at? What motivates him or her, and so on. And you get a quick assessment instantly, basically, that gets done for candidates that can be a great aid as a recruiter to go and figure out how to approach this consultant, or is this person a fit, and so on. So again, there's a lot of things that can get done through artificial intelligence and automation, including, of course, once you identify the candidates, to have an efficient way to go and contact them, voice over IP integration, text message integration. And so it's no wonder the ones that actually leverage technology, how can you compete? I mean, no matter how good your recruiters are, good recruiters with great technology will always outcompete good recruiters without great technology. It's just something that needs to be leveraged, and we're seeing it. So the mobile staffing app, let's move to the next thing. What exactly did it do? So it enables engagement from candidates and consultants for getting like a continuous active pool that you can manage it. So you apps can allow you to streamline the job applications. You get increased number of resumes per job. You can monitor and measure and influence consultant activity. So it helps you get fewer numbers of no-shows or stops, increased number of starts. And you can actually, especially in the age of COVID, you can communicate safety protocols to the workforce. So at the end of the day, you get an increased candidate engagement and an increased consultant engagement. How does it work? Again, the right app would be very easy to use and accessible. You can complete all the steps of the recruitment process right from the mobile phone, whether you're a recruiter or whether you're a candidate or a consultant and so on. So you can manage jobs and requisitions, you can submit and approve timesheets, you can communicate immediately with whoever you want to communicate, and you can update records and profiles right from your phone. So again, lots of power. Not as big, obviously, improvement as the other ones. I mean, my personal assessment is I think it's new and a lot of the firms are still learning how to leverage it, as opposed to the recruiting automation, which I think is just core to the business. So these were the technologies that we clearly saw made a big influence at the first phase of the pandemic. I mean, the ones that adopted them really did better. Now, the second question happens. So what about the recovery? Again, this uptick that was there for the high-performing ones, that's so intriguing to me. What were the technologies that staffing firms prioritized during the recovery? Some of them were the same as before. Recruitment automation, I cannot emphasize this enough. It's hugely important. So the firms that prioritized recruitment automation did 39% better, 40% better than the ones that didn't. Again, so important in the early phase, important in the late phase, always important, I would say. There were a couple of others that came that were interesting and are worth digging into. So one of them is engagement automation. So the firms that invested in or that found important engagement automation, they performed 33% better than the ones that didn't. And the ones that invested in marketing automation, they performed 39% better than the ones that didn't. Very significant numbers. I mean, literally, think of it. You know, this is how winners and losers get made, basically. Let's dig into those. What exactly is this engagement automation, and how does it help me? So the successful firms, they ensured that every consultant on billing was engaged and working during the pandemic. Because when you have stable number of consultants on billing, you can weather the pandemic, you can weather the downturn in new starts. You just at least have your consultants working and billing all the time, and definitely helps wear this downturn and speed up the recovery. You want to automate and make regular your communications with the workforce, so you ensure performance, you ensure their happiness, and everything is under control. So including automatic reminders for pay sheets and so on, regular assignment check-ins, how things are going, and any company-wide announcements. What are some of the tools that help you do that? I think the ability to instantly connect with consultants from anywhere and having real-time communication is key. So text messaging functionality is becoming ubiquitous, and it's hugely important to be able to contact candidates, consultants, and so on their mobile device. And with a text message, instantly get a response. That's hugely important. I mean, one of the things Ceipal, we keep investing there, and one of the things that I'm super excited about that our engineering team is building is they're building conversational AI. So not only you can engage with via text, but you have an intelligent chatbot that can actually answer questions to you and really give you the initial questions very quickly, answer them. And obviously, if you need to speak to a consultant, you will. But a lot of the questions are quick and easy, and this conversational AI chatbot can answer it. That hugely helps improve the experience and the satisfaction of both everybody that uses it, candidates, consultants, and so on. You also want to have personalized campaigns for optimal response rates and engagement. I mean, this is really important as well. And you also want to have automated outreach. Again, you're increasing efficiency, strengthening your relationships, and the technology. Again, you want it to be integrated with the mobile device, online platform, wherever it is. Another one, big impact, marketing automation. And obviously it's natural during a recovery. If you do better on the marketing side, you get you are able to be more efficient on the business development. You're able to be more efficient on trying to get new candidates and place them more. I think it's clear, and we can see it in the numbers: 39% improvement in performance of the firms that really prioritize this technology versus the ones that didn't. What exactly do you do? Well, you want to automate the outreach to both prospective candidates and to clients. And you need to do it through multiple channels. Gone are the days where you just blast emails and you go there. I mean, you really need to be on multiple channels. Emails are there, but everybody's getting so much bombarded by emails and sort of desensitized to emails that many emails are ignored. You cannot rely just on email. You have to get on LinkedIn. You have to have social media presence. You have to get on text messaging, and you have to personalize the follow-ups. You have to be specific. But how do you manage that? I mean, think of your salespeople. It's really, really hard for them to manually keep track and especially if you have a sequence that requires multiple touches, multiple channels. Just relying on them to manually do it's just too much to ask, and it's unrealistic. And yet, when I speak, so many staffing firms do not have automation of their marketing process. They still squarely rely on their salespeople to remember and send. They may develop a sequence of emails that's personalized, which is great. But if you have to manually press the buttons to send it, you're going to lose track. How do you know which day to which of your clients and how to personalize? It's just too much, overwhelming. You become a slave to emails and tracking and following up. So the CRM capabilities to automate this process are really, really important, because automation and automatic processes enable your team to consistently generate new business. Repetition and consistency in a good process is key, no questions about it. And you're able to do that while you can focus on the other ROI efforts. Of course, you need to generate new opportunities. You need to place candidates. You need to strengthen client relationships. There's a lot to do. And unless you harness technology, you just will be outcompeted and outpaced by the others. So how it works, what can you do? Well, if you have multiple job board integrations, obviously, in terms of trying to identify quickly candidates and figure out how to quickly reach out to them, that's important and helps. But again, we get to some really cool and powerful capabilities of CRMs that you really need to look into and expect that your platform, your talent acquisition platform, has. So mass email and mail merge. The ability to send mass emails that are yet tailored and targeted is something that's standard. All industries do it, and ours needs to get there and is getting there as well. You also, again, there are useful email campaigns, and there's best practices on how to leverage different campaigns out there. You want to harness them. So at Ceipal, at our CRM, what we are providing, and one of the efforts that we've been focusing on is to take these best practices in marketing and build these email campaigns that are sort of tailored for specific things. So how do you reach out to new prospects? And is it the same way that you're going to kind of engage existing or past candidates? How do you keep your database warm? How do you approach clients for new business? How do you get referrals? So each of these campaigns, they are tailored. They have their own nuances and best practices. And what we're trying to provide is to give you a template that you can obviously tweak, but you can start somewhere well and leverage. And again, systems do provide this. I encourage you to expect and look at it because it's important. Also, Already talked about it, automated email and SMS outreach. I mean, especially for millennials, they are on their phone all the time. And you have to be on their medium if you want to be effective. Having the ability to quickly reach out, get a phenomenal increase in response rates and overall satisfaction, frankly. You want to have integrations with social media and voice over IP. You want to have specific client and candidate modules because, again, the way you would outreach and the way you would market to each of them is different. You want to have your branded career portals. So these are all things that are powerful, are being leveraged by the successful staffing firms. And we clearly see the results. I mean, we do see the performance that's differential that's out there. So in conclusion, I think they're really taking a step back. Three areas that drove the difference in performance. Business process improvement and business process automation is critical. It allows firms to streamline their recruiting lifecycle and directly impacts ROI. And then technology drives automation. Technology enables the seamless implementation of this business process automation, business process improvement, and they prioritize the automation of some of the key functions in your business: recruitment, marketing, engagement, all of this. Leveraging, again, technology will make you more competitive. And finally, we've seen it. I mean, this is, I've been convinced. And again, this when we did this analysis of this index and survey, absolutely confirmed it, that the successful firms, they do prioritize technology adoption. And we saw that during the pandemic, the technology adoption and utilization absolutely directly, numerically proven, impacted the firm's success. One of the things that I firmly believe in is that digital transformation was already happening, and it was going to happen whether the pandemic came or not. But this violent shakeup of our industry, I mean, exponentially accelerated the adoption of this technology. So what would have happened gradually over some time just got compressed in a very short time. Because again, the whole stress and the whole urgency of the situation really forced firms to rethink and leverage and adopt technology. And it had a big impact. And when you think of technology, I very strongly encourage you to take a step back and realize that the transformation is rapid and is faster than it's ever been. Over the past 5 years, when we look at it all around us, not just in the talent acquisition software, it's been a fundamental and rapid transformation of technology to leverage distributed computing, artificial intelligence. The systems that are built to harness and leverage this new reality are the ones that will be much more powerful and will be the ones that will help you actually outcompete and stay competitive. Because if you are kind of happy go, the way you were going in the past, you may have been absolutely happy with your technology. You may have been using it, but if it's technology that was built 20, 30 years ago, it doesn't scale. I mean, I like to use the example of a car. Yeah, I mean, a car from 30 years ago may have been great, but over time gets increasingly expensive to maintain and to manage. Parts get expensive, especially if you want to add new capabilities to the car, like self-driving and all these. Good luck doing it on an old car. And on a modern platform, on a new car, it's easy to get all these driver ads and self-driving and driver aids and assessments and so on. So much more in technology that happens. It's the same with technology. It's, new technology is powerful. It's cheaper to maintain and leverage, and will get you to go there. And again, we've seen it. In conclusion, I strongly recommend that you take a step back, look at your technology, and realize that it is the key to be successful. The firms that adopt it, the firms that merge their great recruiters, their great salespeople, of course, you need to have a great team, but empower them with great technology. They're the ones that will succeed. We see that they're the ones that succeeded. The ones that don't are the ones that will come out the losers and have come out the losers. So that's my conclusion. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are.
Okay, Peter, we have a few questions, and I want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Our first question is, if we have a limited budget, which technology do you think we should make a priority to invest more time and money into? We'd love to do everything, but unsure if it's possible right now.
Good point. And unfortunately, that's the reality for all of us, including for myself, obviously, trying to run marketing. There's so many things, that we all have ideas, and I have ideas, and it's a really tough challenge to figure out where and how to prioritize. My answer is, so it depends on your firm, and I would strongly encourage you to go and take a step back and assess where is the pain point and where's the bottleneck. You may know it in terms of, what is it on the client acquisition side? Is it on, the jobs? Is it on the recruiting side? Is it, where exactly are you seeing problems and struggles? And I talked about the business process improvement and, business intelligence. Having a robust business intelligence capability will help you there, getting the reports. But once you identify these areas, then you'll be much better to pinpoint. If I have to like blindly tell where to look, I mean, we saw that the one technology that consistently came through during the downturn and during the recovery is a recruitment automation. That actually had a 40% improvement of the firms that adopted it on any side of the cycle, early, late recovery, and it always will be. Because again, artificial intelligence and automation are gonna make your recruiters more powerful and will really enhance their ability and do better. I mean, one other quote that I got from one of our clients, which I really like, is that what technology does and what the AI and recruitment automation does is it sort of raises the level of your lower performing recruiters to the level of the highest ones. It kind of evens up and you get all your recruiters to do well, as opposed to in the past when you had only, get some that were awesome and they could leverage and do it because they had experience, and new ones that may be less effective. With technology, you can raise the level of all of your recruiters. So again, in conclusion, depends on what your challenge is. But if I have to take one, I think recruiting automation is hugely important on both ends.
And our other question, do you think these top tech trends will be the same for the next 12 months, or do you think we'll see some new technologies emerge as more effective?
I think new technologies will always emerge. And I think we're in such a compressed cycle where things are happening faster and faster. So at a high level, the categories that we put are pretty broad, right? So business process improvement will always be there. Recruitment automation, the marketing automation, the various things that we do, they'll always be there. So from a category point of view, I think that they reflect the reality. But the technologies within each of these areas, there'll always be new technologies that'll be appearing, and there's always going to be innovation. So I don't think that the competition and the market stops. So I do encourage you to keep a proactive look. Be curious about what others are doing, what technologies they're leveraging, because I think the areas will stay, but I think that the capabilities and the power will keep improving. And I think one question, obviously, to ask yourself as a staffing firm is, am I set up, my whole technology setup, am I able to leverage when these things come? Because they're becoming faster and faster. I think you want to ensure that you're well positioned to be able to adopt these new technologies as they come, because they're going to be coming.
And our last question is, if the pandemic never happened, do you think we would have seen these same forms of technology to still be the most impactful over the past year? Or do you think different technologies would have surpassed them as more effective?
I think digital transformation was already happening. So the same technologies, I think it was inevitable, the AI and automation to just take over our industry. But it was taking a long time. I mean, it's no surprise that or no coincidence that our industry has been traditionally slower to adopt these new technologies than others. I mean, AI, it's a big thing and we're talking about it, but think of Google. I mean, that's all AI based. How does it find some years ago it adopted and it leveraged Facebook? I mean, there's when it comes to e-commerce or when it comes to some of the social media platforms, this technology went there, and so it was inevitable that it was going to come in our industry. What I think happened is that this just dire situation just forced everybody up and shook them, and the technology adoption was rapidly, I would say, exponentially increased in our industry.
Thanks, Peter. That wraps up our question and answers. Thank you to Peter for presenting, and thank you all for joining. We ask that you please fill out the survey upon exiting this webinar. Our next scheduled webinar will be Advancing Women in IT and Engineering Staffing, a candid discussion held on March 8th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find the registration link on the TechServe Alliance website. If you'd like to learn more about TechServe Alliance, please check out our website at www.techservealliance.org. Please send any further questions to staff@techservealliance.org. Thanks and have a great day.